Hello, my name is Ben Netterfield, and in this video we're going to be looking at how blind spots can unintentionally hold you back from the growth that you want to achieve. One of my biggest bugbears to myself was the fact that I knew that I struggled with having self-worth and self-value. However, what I didn't understand was that leaked into other areas of self-growth. So the example I'm going to give you today is I found it very hard to reach out for advice and help because of that fact of self-worth. I didn't want to put anyone to any trouble. I didn't want to take up anyone's time. I wanted to be as behind the scenes as much as possible so that the people I respected and the people I wanted to learn from weren't being troubled by me, weren't being put out by me. And this obviously led to the fact that I was surrounded by brilliant people that knew the industry that I wanted to move in very well, but I found it very difficult to reach out and actually ask for advice. So they were at times happy to give me advice. However, I found it really hard to close the gaps of knowledge that I knew were there because I didn't want to reach out and actually ask for that advice. So here are the things that I've learned over the years that have helped me to become more confident to reach out. Firstly, and number one, is if you have someone that you're looking for advice from, that make time that best suits them to actually sit down and receive that advice from. Often the people that we are wanting to get advice from are fairly busy, they live hectic lives, they're doing exactly the thing that we want advice about often, and it's only courtesy to actually reach out and also tee up a time that will suit them to be able to sit down with you. They are giving you this time, whether it's paid for or unpaid for, it's still going to be the gift that they're giving to you in this moment. So it's only fair that you're allowing them to give you that time when it actually best suits them. So it's not rushed or haphazard. The other big thing then with that is receiving advice can be very confronting, and there's no way around that. You're looking for advice often around change, you're looking for advice around something in your future that you're not sure about, and this can naturally be quite confronting. The other thing that you have asked is a person of their expert opinion or their feelings on a certain subject. That doesn't make them an expert in communication styles or in being able to give you that advice. They may have the knowledge that you're looking for, but they might not be able to communicate it very well. So the biggest thing is to stay brave. You have asked for that advice, lean into the situation now. It's very easy to ask the advice and then the first few things happen and you run away from it as hard as possible and shut the door. So when you ask for advice, it's then essential that you actually stay in that environment and ask for them to elaborate things, ask them to go down a pathway with you. Because remember, they're coming from their own point of view, they're coming from their own journey, they're coming from their own biases in life. And it's very important that you then try and put it in the perspective of where you are, where you really want to go, and are those things important to you? Because we all have slightly different values, we all have slightly different needs. What they might have really wanted to do if they redid something or they went forward from where they are now is actually slightly different to you. So this doesn't mean their advice isn't wonderful. It often comes with a little caveat of understanding where that advice has drawn its knowledge from. We all have to walk different paths and we all have to understand different journeys, but it's a really big skill to be actually put yourself in someone else's shoes as much as you know anyone else's story and to give them advice from that point, remembering to allow yourself to digest the advice. Often it's very confronting, often it can be quite raw getting that advice. It can sit with you in a really dynamic or times in a little slightly downtrodden way. Sit with the advice. Do you need to reshape the advice? Do you need to get more information? How will you digest the advice? This can be one of the hardest things to do. Just because the advice has been given now doesn't mean it has to be wholeheartedly embraced. It's, do I dissect part of it? Do I relearn something? Do I realize now for the first time that I had a very big gap in what I thought I wanted to do as to opposed to what I want to do. And there's nothing wrong with now to reassessing your own values and your own choices. It's time then to reflect. And this reflection may take, well, I've got to make a choice of moving forward towards something. I can be choosing to stay where I am, or the usual thing is I'm choosing to ignore that advice completely. However, if I have chosen to ignore that advice, why am I choosing to? Is it because I don't truly believe? And if I don't truly believe, why did I go to that person in the first place? So it's actually looking at that undercurrent that's happening as to why you asked advice and now why you're choosing to completely ignore that advice, because sometimes that can be more telling than you realize. If you are walking away from it completely, are your wants and your needs actually in parallel with each other, or are they diverging? And in other words, what we think we want and what we need to do, and the then decision to go through the grind and the hard work, because it doesn't matter how great an advice is, we still have to have the decision that goes with it next, and then the grinding work that has to happen after that to make it into the goal that we want it to be. So it's reassessing your goals, reassessing your understanding of where you truly want to go. And it might be that first flickering of understanding that what you thought you wanted isn't what you need, or what you found out wasn't the journey that you want to be on. Or alternatively, it could be exactly the touch point that you were looking for that leads you into other sections. So it mightn't always be the direct path to where you're going, but it might also light a fire under where you want to actually explore and look next. So having low self-worth and low self-esteem for me made it very hard for me to step into that zone of asking for advice, even though I was surrounded by amazing, wonderful people, simply because of the fact I did not want to trouble them. And I've always found if people have come to me for advice, I'm very happy and willing to give it, and I've generally found most other people are the same. It's giving the person the time to give you that advice and how you receive that advice. Their skill isn't necessarily in their communication, it's in the subject that you wanted. And those two things are very different. So if we get up caught in the emotion of the communication, we miss the advice itself. So those two things are really important. And the important skill of giving yourself self-worth, that it is okay. If they didn't give you, or they have chosen not to give you advice, that's okay. They weren't part of your tribe. They weren't part of your future. We take a big breath, we regroup, we look around. Who do we want to ask next? It's not the end of the world that someone doesn't give you advice. It's not the end of the world if someone gives you advice that really contradicts everything that you stand for. It's just a better understanding of what you want to do. So let yourself have self-worth. Let yourself have self-value, and by giving yourself those two things, the blind sides that we sometimes live with that can actually stunt our own growth, we can start to realize and to actuate growing forward into the future that we want. I hope this quick little video helps. Any comments about how you felt about your own self-worth? We're going to be doing a little series of these in the future, and how self-worth and self-value can limit so many things in your life, sometimes without you even realizing. So be courageous, be brave, step outside, ask someone that you respect, learn to ask questions and to follow up, let it sit with you, and hopefully it grows you into a better future. Take care, be kind to yourself, and then be kind to others. Thank you.